Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to join us today for our 4th episode of STEM activities at home or in the classroom. Make sure to share this with your colleagues and others because we're going to continue to do some great interactive hands-on activities, including ones we're going to be doing today. We're going to be focusing on the Halloween themes. Whoop, whoop. Now I'm going to pass it over to the presentation to Josh, who will be our main presenter for this webinar.
Hello, good afternoon, fine people of the internet and teachers at home. Hi, I'm Josh, and over here to my right is Pete. You can't see him, he's operating all the computer stuff off to the side, and we're live streaming you today to talk about the fun that is Halloween, one of the 2 best times of year to add LEDs to basically anything, which makes arts and crafts so darn simple to do. So today we're going to go over a couple different easy classroom activities you can have the kids make either in the classroom or at home, which is another good thing to be doing since so many kids are maybe in, maybe out of the classroom these days doing their learning. And these are all things that can be done by kids ages 10 and up. If you've got the 4th grade class you're working with or a high school group of kids you're working with, either way, we've got something good for you. Andy, our curriculum writer, is just leaving our office as we're live streaming from the hallway today because our office is under construction. So goodbye, Andy, curriculum writer. So let's go over the kind of things we're doing today. So we're mainly going to be focused on doing conductive tape paper crafts. I kind of see that the lighting here. So we're doing conductive tape on paper or on other objects, which is the fun part of this, the other objects approach. And we're using our really awesome nylon conductive maker tape. This is not your standard copper foil stuff. This is our own fun brand of tape. We like it so much because it works on everything. It's nylon, so it's nice and strong and sturdy. So not only good for paper, but also fabric, walls, windows, you name it. It's fabric tape that's sticky and conductive. So it works great for all sorts of activities, Halloween costumes, decorations, or just annoying, teachers in other classrooms by putting up big blinky things in your window. That's always a fun way of making friends in any classroom. I used to be a teacher and I would do that myself. So let's dive into some of the activities we have. But before we do that, actually, Pete, before we do that, we have a few things we want to make sure we let people know. First and foremost, you can find all the resources we're showing off today at Pete. Oh, there you go. There you go. Pete's in charge of all the button pressing. Nasco Educate and NascoEducation.com. You can find all of these resources as well as more things from us and from other fine STEM producers on this website. And also, if you have any questions, be sure to talk to Jordan. He's the other disembodied voice you've been listening to at the beginning here. Jordan's a pretty handy guy for information. So if you have questions about purchasing or finding some of the parts we're using, even just the maker tapes, so you have stuff already, you can talk to him. He can get you hooked up with this fun stuff and show you how to get all that going. And yeah, there we go. So we're also, by the way, one last thing, because I always forget, there's a little list here I have to go under. So we're using our Brown Dog Gadgets paper circuits kit, which we found at NASCO's website. There's also an individual kit like this. There's also a large classroom set. So if you're doing up to 40 kids in a classroom, the bigger classroom set for about $100, I believe, is what you want to go for. But also NASCO's got a few little custom kits from us ranging from $10 to $30 for little STEM take-home bags. So you want to say, get a bunch of kids going at home with this activity. That's how you do that. So we're going to switch to our above camera now. There we go. Oh, little Josh in the corner. Yay. So the first thing we're going to be doing is kind of the most basic kind of possible thing you could ever do. So we're actually going to take like 3 different approaches here. And the first one is the go-to approach. So if you're anyone who's ever done paper circuits before, putting conductive tape on paper, has probably done a greeting card or done a simple paper craft template, something kind of like a spider like this. We have quite a few different Halloween templates because Halloween is a really easy time of year to light things up. Jack-o'-lantern, spiders, ghosts, robots, basically anything you want you can add LEDs to because it's Halloween. It's just that time of year. So we have a bunch of different templates. We're going to go through the jack-o'-lantern template that we have and show you how to make that because it's pretty darn simple. So all the directions that we've put together come in a couple different variety formats. Oh, there we go. So we have direction sets for them, and we also have templates to use. So you can either have the kids say copy this over or use this as a guide, where we just copied it over to some construction paper, or they could cut this out if you're doing this on a cardstock, color it and use it as well. But we have these nice big direction sets that really walk you through step by step how to do this. And any kids really 10 years old and up who've had experience with scissors, because every now and then you get kids who don't have scissor experience, which is unfortunate. but it's pretty simple to go through, especially as you get to a bit older level kids. Now we're doing basic circuitry projects on here. So simple parallel circuit with a couple of LEDs and a coin cell battery, which is the big limiting factor. Which is why I say 10 years old and up, because coin cell batteries can be dangerous if swallowed. So keep away from smaller children and pets or very hungry coworkers. So these is the one thing you want to make sure are nice and safe. We're using these big jumbo 10mm LEDs, which we have in our kits. They have little built-in resistors on the head to make them nice and easy, and that maker tape. So this is really all the supplies you need: a pair of scissors, some construction paper, and the stuff in our paper circuits kit. Especially that maker tape will make things much, 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 much easier than copper foil tape. In fact, these are older directions of ours, which is why they say copper tape on them, because we haven't updated them yet. They say maker tape. So Pete, we should put that on the list of things to update.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got some older directions that every now and then, like, oh, we forgot to update with that copper foil, but makes it easier. So all we're doing is making a very, very simple circuit with LEDs on one side and your battery on the other. We're actually doing a little bit different version of this because there's a bunch of different ways we can do this, but definitely check out the different directions. If you want to get really fancy, we do have some vibrating motor-based directions as well for making vibrating Halloween-esque paper crafts using a self-sticking vibrating motor. Really fun, just peel and stick, and then battery, tape, LEDs if you want. So we're gonna put this direction set to the side and grab my Jack-o'-lantern materials. So I've got some construction paper, which I'm going to definitely cut off screen, and then look, it's all done over here. I'm really good at cutting that paper really quickly. It's like, as if I didn't even do it myself. So you've got your jack-o'-lantern with all the various components. You've got a stem, because you got to have a stem. You got some eyes of various varieties and types. This is my jack-o'-lantern here. You can have the kids each do their own because they're jack-o'-lanterns. And we're going to take two, let's say red LEDs today, because jack-o'-lanterns today have red. We don't really have a yellow LED. Color changing also works well. There we go. So first thing to know is LEDs have two legs on them, a positive leg and a negative leg. Oh, we don't need a safety pin, Pete. This is construction paper,
Okay.
cardstock. If you do this out of cardstock, which I'd recommend if you're doing a white paper with a coloring, heavier paper, 30 to 50 pound cardstock, just not printer paper. Construction paper being a little thicker is fine. But if you do the heavier paper, sometimes a safety pin is helpful to poke holes with LED legs. But back to the LED. They have two legs, a positive leg and a negative leg. Long is positive, short is negative. Important when lining things up with the battery. If you do one LED with a battery, you can always flip the battery over, you're fine. If you're doing two LEDs, you want to make sure they both have the same positive leg on one side, negative on the other. Then you get weird things happening. So, I will take Pete's advice, and I'm going to do this. First off, what you want to do would be to take a wonderful glue stick out of our wonderful streaming video supply box. And you want to tape down, wow. You want to glue down your stuff. So in this situation, I'm going to poorly glue down with this, my eyeballs, because we have this. Oh, also, if you have questions, you can throw those up in the comment area, and Jordan will relay these to us, or Pete will mention them and tell me. Just if you have questions like, hey, Josh, why are you doing that? Or, hey, Josh, how do you get so cool? I'd be like, well, I don't know.
No one's ever asked.
No one's ever asked that question. No, nobody ever will. There you go. Gonna badly glue down the parts because this.
Put glue on both sides. Paper and eye.
There we go. We're live. There we go. Ta-da, we're not gonna worry about you, whatever. So we got eyes. There we go. We put our eyes in the right spot. So I will use a safety pin for video purposes so I don't look too foolish. I'm just gonna poke two holes in for my LED. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. Safety pin. And then we're gonna stick the legs through. And I'm gonna make sure that I have, I only need one hole in there. I'm not even following my own directions well. I'm gonna put the negative, it's gonna make fun of me so badly. I'm gonna put the negative leg on top on this part of my paper, on the top half, and my positive leg on the back half of the paper. So I really need one hole. So my bad, people. It's been a while since we've done a Halloween project, about a year. I'm gonna do the same thing on both. So the positive leg on the back side, negative leg on the front. And again, there are many ways of doing this. We're just choosing a very simple way for this video. There's many ways to make a circuit. So ta-da. On our directions, we actually have you do the the taping first and then put stuff down so that all the tape goes behind the pumpkin eyes. You could also do it where we put all the tape on the back side too. We're just going to demonstrate one way of doing this, which is why we're updating our directions a bit these days. So there you go. We've got positive on one side, negative on the other. Yay. Now we're just going to start adding tape. That's literally what we're going to be doing. So we're going to have all of our tape converge on the same spot, which isn't that far because we're only going from here to about right there. So we're going to have it converge. And then same thing on this side, have it converge up and over. So we're going to have our little pumpkin here, a unibrow up and over, so to speak. And then we just have to put a battery in and we have it lit up. That's pretty much it. Best thing about Halloween papercraft projects are, they're extremely simple to do because there's not a whole lot to them. We're adding a couple of LEDs to a battery. Another thing you could do as well, we have some naturally blinking LEDs. These just blink on and off, work really well for pumpkins. If you want to say add the same exact approach to an actual pumpkin on the inside, oh, we have a treat for you today because that's going to be project number 2. So we're just going to add some tape in. And this nylon tape we have is nice and sturdy and strong. The hardest part about it is sometimes for some people, depending on their fingernail length and how frustrated they are with being on camera, is easy or difficult. If you're a teacher who doesn't want to give their kids gigantic rolls of tape, having a backing on the tape is really, really helpful. So you can give them each like a foot of tape, and then everybody's just, you've got your tape. Now our maker tape is conductive on top and bottom, which means we can just overlap the tape with a part like so, and we have a good connection. And we're gonna do the same thing here. We're just gonna cross the tape so it's all connected together right there. The directions you'll find on the website are slightly different on this template. But again, there's many ways of doing this, and we have a couple different ways documented. We have a bunch of different templates. We have actually a spooky ghost template out to the side here as well. Want to get all nice and spooky. Felix, would you put that on the front step, on the front bench in front? Thanks, Felix. Our warehouse manager, Felix. Somebody picking up an order, a rare occasion today. Library in Sussex, Wisconsin, picking up something. So yay. So there we go. We've got everything cut out right there. So we've got, this is our positive side, yay. Now we have a little special approach we like to do with our tape to keep a battery held in place. This is what we can do with our maker tape as opposed to other types of conductive tape. So we actually just put a little tape loop, which, oh, look at that. Pete has a graphic for a tape loop. So we can just literally stick the battery to the tape and we have a nice solid connection. So we're just gonna do a little loop of tape right here. Oops, if I can actually do that. I'm just having one of those days. We're gonna be doing this a couple times in today's live stream. And we can just stay in place. There you go, little buddy. I'm just gonna stick that literally anywhere that makes a good connection with our bottom tape there. And I'm gonna stick this, since I put the positive on this side, take the positive out of my battery, and go right here. Ta-da. So my battery is on that side. Now I just gotta connect these guys to the other side of my battery, and we're good to go. Now, if I wanted to, I could do this circuit anywhere on here. Again, a lot of different ways to do this. Now, with older kids, I'd have them design their own circuit because that's way more interesting than having them follow directions, especially if they've done anything with conductive tape or circuits in the past. Because you give some kids who are kind of, into designing their own projects the tools, they'll do some funky stuff with this, that's for sure. I've got tape everywhere here now, don't I, Pete?
Yes.
Pete's just like, what are you doing? You've already got tape. No one knows. No one ever knows. A small toddler at home who is really giving my sleep a run for its money.
He probably thinks you're cool.
I don't know, considering the 2-year-old screaming fit I had this morning to deal with before coming out the door. So we're just actually going to come kind of the middle right here. I'm going to connect over and up and around. And if you're smarter than I am, you can make a couple layers. Something we've done in the past with other projects for older kids, we do like a multi-layer approach. We'll have one piece of paper with all the electronics on it, then another piece of paper on top to have all the embellishments. So you can hide that layer of tape in front of there. Our conductive tape squid we have, which is one of my favorite projects because we use color changing LEDs because squid are color changing. They're my favorite mollusk, Pete. Have I told you that?
What are some other mollusks?
Oops, I got up a little bit. I would say like, you know, a good old fashioned clam.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're gonna, there we go. We got lights.
Yeah.
Ta-da. And you can hide things behind there and do this multiple ways. And this is kind of, yeah. The spider here is another good example of one we spent way more time on, some heavier paper. And again, same approach. We've got 2 lines here. We've got 2 lines actually on the back side below this. You can do multiple steps of paper. And the spider and the ghost are a couple other things we have. Just depends on how you're doing it. The ghost project we have, where we go here, here's a picture of a ghost. We actually put like a layer of vellum paper between in front of the ghost. We have like multiple layers on there so that it gives a nice ethereal look to it. Ethereal, yeah, that's my vocab word of the day I was going to use. So there we go. And the spider here also is the same basic approach. We're doing a little fold around tab to hide the battery on this. For the pumpkin, we just do that little approach. Then just keep adding some more embellishments to your pumpkin. Yay. Want to put a big old stem up here because, you know, we're doing some STEM education.
Ooh.
Ho ho! Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways of doing this. This is a super simple project that any kid can do. It'll look nice. They can take it home. It lights up. Like, look, mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, grandpa, I made a pumpkin that lit up in my class. And your cost per child is about less than $1.50. So it ends up being a pretty low cost project as well. That's hard to screw up because if they do screw up so badly that there's little tears involved, take the LEDs and battery off, more paper, some more tape, everyone's good because there's more than enough tape in all the kits we have to do all the projects you want and then some extra because we want to make sure that there are no small tears involved because we've all been there in a classroom. So this is like a little simple pumpkin. Oh, Pete's just telling me we're at 20 minutes in. Yay, thank you, Pete. He's so helpful. We need a clock on here. There you go. So this is a very simple approach. So we're going to jump to something else now. I'm going to cover one other topic here because at this point, it's you kind of get the basic idea. So we're going to ditch that little pumpkin. We're going to bring in something I like to call the actual pumpkin.
Ooh.
You know what this is, Pete? Fresh from my garden.
Wow.
When I say fresh, I guess we picked it a while ago. But so this is a standard pumpkin. It's about the size of a standard pumpkin.
May need to zoom out to see that.
Yeah, we're going to zoom out a little bit here. Let's just zoom. There we go, work table. There we go. That's much better. So what you can do with a standard pumpkin in a classroom that you don't want to have candles in is do the exact same thing we did before, but on here with paper. In fact, we have a write-up on this where we can just take different template eyes here. We have these little templates for different types of eyes, angry eyes, scary eyes. If you got kids, they can do their own darn pumpkin eyes. Come on. We use some black paper to put like eyes on here. We take the exact same approach where we put maker tape onto this pumpkin to make it light up using the same kind of tape loop battery approach because this maker tape being so darn strong works really well on a pumpkin. And seriously, if you've got a classroom where I have things light up, go this route. You can have a candle. If you want to do this exact same approach inside of a pumpkin, make a little tiny insert with that's a little paper cube or something, a couple LEDs on that and a battery. Stick it in your pumpkin. It lights up. Everyone's happy. There's no candles involved, so no principals will tell you, excuse me, Mr. or Mrs. What's your face? Teacher. Don't have candles, open flames in the classroom. That's not cool. But it works really well to stick onto a pumpkin. Ta-da, without any issues. And add your LEDs the exact same way. It's really simple to do. In fact, I'm going to make the simplest circuit possible on this pumpkin. Oh, that's right, Pete. We're gonna super simple circuit this pumpkin up.
Ooh.
And if you really mess up, you can still peel back and fix it because the pumpkin is fairly smooth. Let's use a blue LED for this pumpkin. And we're gonna have this side be negative and the other side be positive. So, and this is the exact way, I actually read a guide recently, which was how to add LEDs to anything. And it was literally what we're doing here. We're gonna use a tape loop to put a battery onto a random spot. I'm just gonna run other tape over to it, but you can do this on pretty much any Halloween decoration. Now again, blinking LEDs work really well, those blinking red LEDs, just because it gives it a little pizzazz. We have color changing LEDs that come in our kits as well, so that if you wanna say, again, extra pizzazz, just add power, they just slowly change color to color to color. Am I forgetting anything there, Pete, at all?
No, I have Can I show that?
Oh, there's
That's one we
the
did.
finished one.
Yeah, there's
Oh.
one we've done before.
That's way better
I
than
don't
the thing
know if
I'm
you're
showing
doing
off.
the same one now.
I'm kind of doing something similar-ish,
Yeah.
but with a little less effort because I'm not going to decorate this entire pumpkin. It has to go back into my front yard. My small toddler will actually be very sad. He loves pumpkins right now because he's just 2, and this came out of our garden. It was, Pete, it was a volunteer pumpkin.
Volunteer.
We
Huh?
threw our old pumpkins from last year into our little raised flower box, and
Oh,
we got like two pumpkins out of there this year.
nice.
So, it is, Pete, free pumpkins.
Yeah. Now, how long will the LEDs run on a battery like that?
Oh, well, Pete, that is a very, very valid question.
Okay.
So general rule of thumb is don't use more than 3 LEDs with one of these batteries. More than that, it's going to drain the power really quickly. And also kind of depends on what color you're using. Now in this situation where for Halloween stuff, red's a pretty fun color to use. They tend to last the longest due to the voltage requirements from a battery that they have. But anywho, long story short, days,
Okay.
especially if you don't care about max brightness. Like max brightness, some people really care about. Ta-da! Let's just push you down.
Ooh.
I've lit up a pumpkin with one single like Cyclops eyes. Behold the blue pumpkin. We're gonna turn the light off there, Pete.
Does it look? Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
glowing.
You can see that.
Lasts for a few days. Especially blinking LEDs last even longer because they're only on half the time. I kid you
Ooh.
not, that's something somebody asked, like, oh, look, it happens. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. They're only on half the time. So
Wow.
color changing tends to suck a lot of power because it's multiple LEDs actually going at once. It cycles from like color diode to color diode to color diode. So as they're like slowly fading from like blue to green, and like you actually have more than one LED on at once. So it's kind of funny. Those go through the fastest just the way they are. Yay, technical details. But this is a great way of doing this. Now here's something else as well from Nasco Educate. Thanks for the sound effect, Pete, which nobody else can hear. Our maker tape works really, 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 really well on fabric as well. So another activity you could do, which we have documented that Nasco has, is making a light up bracelet for Halloween as well. We're using just some cheap felt to make a bracelet with literally this right here, conductive tape, an LED, and a battery on a piece of bracelet. All you need is a pair of scissors to cut out more fabric to stick on there, but it's a non-sewing wearable. So I make a fun Halloween wearable, there you go, or something that you can pin to a shirt like a felt pumpkin instead of a paper pumpkin. Making it more fabric wearable adds another layer of interest for the students as well. If you want to get really, really, really fancy, get some cardboard boxes and make a nice little robot outfit out of it with LEDs, there you go. But I like the fabric approach is good, the pumpkin approach is good, and doing paper crafts or decorations with conductive tape on there is simply really easy to do. When you're done, especially if it's the more plasticky Halloween decorations, you can just peel things up and you do it again next year, have the next group of kids do their own light up of things. So if you've got a bunch of cheap decorations from Target or the dollar store, it's a great way to have the kids do their own light up decorations with that. If Pete, as you mentioned, the battery question, if you want to get really, really, really battery conscious of stuff, you can also use like a 2 AA battery holder or 2 AAA battery holder, and then just run tape over those wires. Those will last for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I would recommend getting with a little on and off switch on there. I'm pretty sure Nasco probably has some of those because then you can turn them off into the day. They'll, 2 AA's or 2 AAA's will last you both Halloween, Thanksgiving, and any Christmas or Hanukkah events you might have in your classroom. So there's really easy way to add lights to anything in a way that's very, very, very kid friendly. The kids can do all the work themselves, and there's literally no risk. If they screw up their pumpkin, who cares? You can pull your tape off and take your LED off, and it's no harm, no foul. I mean, my toddler won't even notice a difference. He did say pumpkin, pumpkin when I put in my car this morning, so he will be looking for it tonight. Toddlers, go figure. But this is a really, really simple way of adding fun STEM connections to Halloween decorations in a way that is accessible, student-led, and high interest because you're doing other work. And again, it's also very, very, very inexpensive as well for you to do in a classroom setting, especially with the Paper Circuits classroom set that NASCO has of ours, where you can do basically $1.50 per paper craft for the kids to make and take home or do stuff with. And if you want to be a crafty teacher when it comes to saving, you can always reuse your LEDs from especially the decorations, just kind of go through tape and batteries. And those are pretty darned inexpensive to get from Nasco. So if nobody has any questions, we're going to once again bring up the wonderful links here, Nasco Education and Nasco Educate, where you'll find all of the materials you might need to make this, including directions, our fun maker tape, and our Paper Circus classroom set. And Jordan can help you out with fun things. You can also email Jordan at engage@nascoeducation.com. If you email him, he will, I imagine, write back to you. He's a pretty prompt fellow when it comes to that.
All right.
So
Well, thank you, Josh. I definitely appreciate that.
he's pretty prompt about emailing us back, which we love. But so
Okay,
seriously,
well,
pumpkins, other projects, it's good to go. I mean, it's so easy. Even Jordan can totally make it himself at his home. And I know he definitely does.
absolutely. We're actually talking about that at home, what we're going to be doing for Halloween. And that's probably one of those projects that we're going to be doing, which is awesome. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today as we're wrapping up. I wanted to thank Josh for presenting. Again, my name is Jordan Nelson. I'm one of the customer engagement managers with NASCO. I was your host today, and I want to give a shout out to all your educators out there who are still making it happen for students. You're awesome. I do want to say, if you do have any questions at this time, make sure to ask them as you're writing them. I did want to also quick note that these are intended to be easy to learn, engaging STEM activities that you can integrate and supplement your curriculum at home or even at school. I do see one question, Josh, that came through that said, hey, when they are lit for a while, are they hot to touch?
Oh, that's a very, very, very good question to ask, and a question that children often ask as well, because incandescent bulbs that most people are used to we're used to them being hot. LEDs of this size and variety are cold. You cannot physically tell a difference by touch. I'm sure they're minutely warmer in some weird way if we had very fancy tools to test things out, but this type of LED runs cold, which is great. Bigger LEDs you might find in lighting fixtures or in setups, those can run hot because they're a lot more powerful LEDs, but these are cold. They're great that way. So you don't have to worry about any danger of people touching them, of things burning, or of issues. There's really no way in like this simple circuit using a couple of LEDs, a coin cell battery, even a 2 AA battery holder or 2 AAA battery holder, for you to have any sort of heat issues whatsoever. You'd have to really, really, really work hard to find a way to make that happen. I'm not gonna say it either, but you could if you really, really, really tried, but you're not going to have any heat issues. That's why these kind of LEDs are just so perfect for working with kids, because there's no danger. Also, unlike those incandescent bulbs I even used in my classroom 10 years ago, because imagine they'd been in there since the 1970s. These won't break. You can drop these on the floor. You can throw them across the room. They're not going to explode, break, or have any other issues. If you wire them up backwards, you're just not going to turn on. The only way you can really break them is if you have somebody sit there and bend this leg back and forth 100 times, a leg might come off. But like in our kit, we give 120 of these big LEDs in the kit of different colors. So we have plenty of extra, but they're way safer, way easier to use, and much more tactilely fun, because you can do fun projects like this composed of those incandescent bulbs we all probably used back in the day that I know a few broke in my classroom on any lesson we did. Use big old alligator clips to hook them together, but this just makes life so much easier and so much more hands-on engaging, whether it's in classroom or at home, because only need a pair of scissors to put this stuff together at home. So have kids working at home, no special tools needed, just some tape, an LED, and a battery, and you can make something light up like Mr. Standard Pumpkin right here.
Correct. Well, thanks, Josh. A couple more questions are coming in. One was, hey, I like the R2D2 in the handout that I just added up in the presentation. How easy is that one to do?
So that would be one of our robot buddies, which is a 3-dimensional paper craft project we put together, because we kind of like the idea of doing a paper doll, like a base paper doll that you can add things to, because designing things from scratch is really, really annoying sometimes on our end. So, but essentially the R2D2 is just a 3-dimensional rectangle, like an elongated cube, paper cube that we can print off on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and you can fold up. It's not difficult to do. We made it pretty darn easy. The hardest thing is just cutting out all that paper. And so it's not something we recommend for the younger grade levels, but especially when you get like the really 6th grade on up with, and again, you know your kids best if they have decent dexterity and decent scissor handling skills. Or if you have a Cameo Silhouette or other kind of paper cutting machine where they can cut it out for you, that's actually really handy too. But then all you do is do some very easy folding. One piece of tape holds it all together, then you just decorate that front. with whatever you want, like the R2D2 or the BB8. We just have a bunch of different templates or little things you can stick on the front, or I like to have kids draw themselves on there. And we either do an LED or a vibrating motor on the inside. And it's not very difficult to wire it up because you do all the quote unquote wiring when the project is flat on the table. So it'll work before you even do the folding together. So it's pretty darn simple to do. It just depends on a little bit better scissor handling skills and also printing off that template on some heavier paper, not standard 8.5 by 11 copier paper. You want to have more like 40 to 50 pound cardstock. I typically like to use just because it's a little easier for the kids to handle and the paper's a bit more rigid to put your tape onto. But those are pretty darn easy projects. And every now and then we like to do both a vibrating motor and an LED or two on there. So we have a video that we did a while back where it's an R2D2 and a BB8, and that's probably the one you see in that picture, but they're both vibrating around the table with each other and with blinking LEDs on them, because why not? But those are simple and easy to do. And again, 1 or 2 LEDs, that template is that $1.50 or less per child. Add a little bit more in there if you want to add the vibrating motor, because that's like the most expensive papercraft item that we have in our kits, are those little self-sticking motors, because they're little motors. But anyway, that's a dealio with that. It's not that difficult. You just need a little bit better paper handling skills. But again, your kids best, and 6th grade up, I would probably, as a general rule of thumb. So, and Jordan, there's another question you mentioned as well.
Right now, I think that was the last question. I think maybe if there might be something if they, like, for example, like the battery, would the battery ever get hot or overheated if,
No.
created a short circuit? So that might be another question that might be common.
Not really. Pete?
A little warm if you short circuit the battery.
Okay, a little warm. And these little coin cell batteries, these are common CR2032s. They're nothing fancy. They're great because they're very inexpensive and they're lightweight. They can get warm, but nothing that's going to hurt anybody. Like, oh yeah, that's kind of warm, I should not do that. Versus say, ow, it's hot, I'm going to hurt myself, kind of situation. So really nothing we have in our kits are dangerous. The only dangerous thing to have happen is if somebody were to swallow parts, which in any situation, that'd be the worst one. I don't think those LEDs would be too pleasant to swallow down the throat anyway with the pokey parts, but you never know. But that's why we always say ages 10 and up for these things. Also too, we've just noticed from years of doing this with kids at trade shows, after school events, summer camps, scout groups, 10 and up tend to have the dexterity and direction following skills to be able to accomplish these projects entirely on their own with very little adult supervision. When you start going younger than that, you get a lot more hand holding involved, especially when it comes to cutting things out with paper and following the directions. So I always say 10 and up tends to be the nice sweet spot for teachers to be able to run a activity that's entirely student led versus having to have a lot of adult supervision. I would say too, if you could ever have like another adult around when doing these kind of activities, it never hurts to have extra pair of hands just to help out and classroom management wise. I know that's not always an option for everyone in their classroom, but Halloween events or something, having a Halloween day, you probably have a parent or two around to help out. This works really well. So there we go. And the pumpkin's an easy one. The ghost is an easy one. The spider, this one here, it's a little bit more work. So definitely not for your 10 and 11-year-olds, but again, it's the same thing. The pumpkin approach. Again, on fabric is fun. You can make a one-day wearable on a shirt because it'll come off. It's not going to leave any weird residue. It's fabric tape. So you can put it onto clothing, especially if you have school uniforms where everyone's happy. Designer clothing, I would never recommend that. You never know. But we get the weirdest emails sometimes about things. But that's something I totally recommend trying out. And again, the nylon tape goes into literally anything and comes off any sort of hard surface very, very easily. So let your minds go wild.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Josh. Definitely appreciate it. For all those out there, if you're anxious to connect with Nasco outside of this webinar event and you want more information, we also do have a different grant program for digital solutions. Feel free to reach out to us at engage@nascoeducation.com. I did put that out in the chat. Also, if you have any feedback, make sure to give that in our survey too. We always like to hear more feedback or things that maybe you're interested in hearing more about. If you want more information about some of the different products we offer, absolutely reach out to us.
And Jordan, I was also going to say this too as a bookend. I know a lot of the stuff we show off on these, especially NASCO events and other events we do, is the fun paper crafty things here, but NASCO has on their website all of our lesson plans that go with this. So if you want to say, do a learn about circuits lesson or two with this kind of activity as the end point, the fun thing you do after you learn a couple of things, we have those available as well. So you can bring in a nice learning component, vocabulary words, student activity page, all that fun jazz, lesson planning for the teachers, and use this as a bookend to that, so that here's a fun thing after we learn a couple of other things to do. So it's not just fun, it's also a large educational component as well, which we did not cover, but we have a bunch of different lessons that go with this that are, again, very simple, very straightforward, conductive tape, LEDs, paper to learn about switches, buttons, parallel series circuits, all that fun jazz. So Jordan has all those available on the NASCO Education website for people to look at and download and check out.
Yes, absolutely we do. And that makes you make a good point, Josh. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put a couple of those in there right now in the handouts, just so they can at least have some of that information right before they leave here. Let me grab some of those.
Sure.
Just to kind of give an example. So they have like a basic paper circuits lesson that I just added, the series and parallel circuits. That can get you started at least too as well, some of the content. So for those that are attending, they can at least download that information too. I did want to make a shout out next week. We are going to also be doing another live presentation just like we are every week. It's going to be episode 5. It's not going to be at 3 o'clock though. This one's going to be at 4:15. So I just want to make sure to note that time difference. That's 4:15 Central Time. So if you're on the East Coast, that's 5:15. On the West Coast, you're probably looking closer to 2:15. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. I'll send a follow-up email too, so everybody has that that difference changed, so no one's confused. But we're going to probably end up doing some more Halloween crafts and some other different designs. I think that'd be kind of fun to do. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today. If you have any last questions, make sure to put that in the questions tabs. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.
All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks for attending. Have a great day.